There's no way that's him. I sat up so fast my phone nearly slipped out of my hand. The dating app had just flashed a bright gold banner across the screen. Perfect match, 99% compatible. Normally, I would have laughed. I'd had enough terrible dates to know an algorithm couldn't tell me anything useful about love. That night alone, I'd spent 2 hours listening to a guy named Derek explain why every one of his exes was crazy, then watched him argue with the waiter over a $3 tip. By the time I got home, I was still wearing my hoodie, half buried in the couch, scrolling because I wasn't tired enough to sleep and wasn't hopeful enough to care. Then his profile appeared. The first photo showed a man standing beside a coffee shop window, face turned slightly away, one hand wrapped around a paper cup. Dark hair, navy jacket, familiar shoulders. I stared for a second, but nothing clicked. His bio was short: architect, bad cook, unreasonably loyal to one coffee shop. Looking for someone who knows silence doesn't always need fixing. That last line made me stop. I tapped like before I could overthink it. The match was instant. A message appeared less than 10 seconds later. 99%? That feels like a lot of pressure. I smiled despite myself. We can aim for 75 and avoid disappointment. 3 dots appeared. Smart. You always this optimistic. Only after bad dates. How bad? I looked at the cold takeout container on my coffee table. He explained cryptocurrency before we ordered drinks. I'm sorry. Nobody deserves that. I laughed out loud, which felt strange in my empty apartment. We kept talking. Movies first, then work, then the best late-night food in Chicago. He guessed I was the kind of person who ordered the same coffee every morning. I told him that was lazy profiling. Medium oat milk latte, he wrote. 1 extra shot when you're tired. My thumb froze above the screen. Lucky guess. Sure. I should have asked how he knew. Instead, I told myself my order was common. It meant nothing. Then he mentioned that I tapped my fingers against tables when I was stressed. My chest tightened. Do we know each other? There was a longer pause this time. The typing bubble appeared, vanished, then came back. Maybe you've seen me around. I opened his photos again. The second showed him laughing beside a lake. The third was taken inside a studio full of architectural models. Still familiar. Annoyingly familiar. Give me a hint, I typed. You've ignored me at least 12 times. I stared at that message, heat creeping up my neck. Before I could answer, he sent one more photo. No turned face. No sunglasses. Just him, looking directly into the camera with that quiet half-smile I'd seen near the elevators, at office mixers, and almost every morning in the coffee shop downstairs. Ethan Brooks. The guy who always held the door when my hands were full. The guy who once found my employee badge and brought it to my desk. The guy whose last name I had only learned from a dating app, even though he'd known mine for 2 years. My stomach dropped. Then another message appeared. So, Mason, are you going to pretend you don't recognize me this time? For almost a full minute, I did nothing. I just stared at Ethan's message while every awkward moment from the last 2 years started replaying in my head. The elevator. The coffee shop. The office holiday party where he had tried to talk to me while I was answering emails. I had not been rude. At least, I did not think I had been. I had just been distracted. Busy. Tired. Those were reasonable excuses. The problem was, 12 times sounded less like bad timing and more like a pattern. I typed, deleted, then typed again. I was not pretending. I genuinely did not recognize you. His reply came almost immediately. That is somehow worse. I covered my face with one hand. I am going to delete this app. Please do not. We are 99% compatible. According to an app that also matched me with a man who brought his mother to dinner. Maybe the missing 1% is your ability to notice people. I laughed, even though my chest felt tight. Ethan was funny. I had known that, technically. I had heard him make people laugh in the co-working kitchen. I had just never realized how easy it was to talk to him. We messaged for another hour before he finally wrote, "You have work tomorrow. Go to sleep, Mason." I stared at my name on the screen. It felt more personal now that I knew exactly who was typing it. You remembered my name. A pause. I remember a lot of things about you. My heart gave one hard, stupid beat. I told myself he meant my coffee order. My badge. Normal things. Nothing else. The next morning, I considered taking the side entrance to avoid the coffee shop. I made it halfway down the block before realizing how ridiculous that was. So I went inside. Ethan was already there, sitting 3 tables from the counter with a blueprint tube leaning against his chair. He looked up the second I walked in. Not after I ordered. Not when I passed his table. The second the door opened. His eyes stayed on mine, calm and unreadable, until I nearly forgot where I was going. Then he lifted his cup. Morning, perfect match. The barista glanced between us and smiled like she knew something I did not. Heat climbed into my face. Please never call me that in public. Ethan leaned back, amused. Private only. Got it. That sounded more intimate than it should have. I looked at the empty chair across from him, then toward the counter. I should order. Medium oat milk latte. Extra shot. He pointed to the cup waiting beside his. My cup. My name was written across the side. I stopped moving. You bought me coffee? You look tired. You have seen me for 5 seconds. His gaze moved over my face, softening just a little. I have seen you tired before. I reached for the cup at the same time he slid it toward me. Our fingers touched. It was barely anything, just the side of his hand against mine, but neither of us pulled away immediately. The coffee shop noise seemed to drop behind us. Ethan looked down at our hands, then back at me. Something changed in his expression. Not confidence. Something more careful. Are you going to ignore me on the app too? The teasing was still there, but not enough to hide the question underneath. I wrapped both hands around the cup because I suddenly did not trust either of them. I was not ignoring you. Ethan held my gaze for another second. You never looked long enough to know. Then he stood, picked up his blueprint tube, and walked toward the elevators, leaving the chair across from him empty. For the first time in 2 years, I noticed him leave. And for some reason, I wanted him to come back. At 12:17 that afternoon, Ethan sent me a message. Coffee was not enough. Let me buy you lunch before you accuse me of stalking. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. That depends. Do you already know my order? 3 dots appeared. Turkey club. No tomato. Fries you pretend you do not want. My stomach tightened. That is unsettling. 1 o'clock. I should have made an excuse. Instead, I typed, fine. But this is not a date. His answer came fast. Of course not. Perfect match. We met downstairs at the same coffee shop, which also sold sandwiches nobody ordered unless they worked nearby. Ethan was already at a table by the window. The chair across from him had been pulled out, and my lunch was waiting beside a glass of iced tea. No tomato. Extra fries. You are making the stalking argument very difficult to defend, I told him. Ethan smiled, but there was something careful behind it. You have ordered the same thing every Thursday for almost a year. You noticed what day I eat sandwiches? You sit 3 tables away from me, Mason. Before I could answer, the barista, Lena, set down Ethan's coffee and looked between us. Finally, I blinked. Finally what? She gave Ethan a look that made him suddenly very interested in his napkin. Nothing. Enjoy your date. Not a date, I said too quickly. Ethan's eyes lifted to mine. For a second, the teasing disappeared. The space between us went strangely quiet. Then he leaned back. Right. Definitely not a date. Something in his tone made my chest pull tight. I had wanted him to laugh. I had expected him to make it easy. Instead, I felt like I had closed a door he had barely opened. We ate for a minute without speaking. I reached for a fry, mostly so I had something to do with my hands. Ethan pushed the basket closer. You can stop pretending those are mine. I looked up. You remember everything, do you? His thumb traced the edge of his cup. Not everything. What do you forget? Ethan held my gaze. Usually the things I am trying to. My heart started pounding for no good reason. Or maybe there was a reason, and I was getting tired of pretending there was not. I looked down at my sandwich. Why did you match with me? Because I wanted to. Even after I ignored you 12 times? 14, actually. I groaned. That keeps getting worse. One time you walked into an elevator while I was talking to you. I had headphones on. You were not wearing headphones. I laughed, and Ethan did too. The tension eased, but only slightly. When we stood to leave, someone bumped into me from behind. I stepped forward, straight into Ethan. His hand caught my waist before I could lose my balance. It stayed there. Warm. Steady. Too long to feel accidental. Neither of us moved. Ethan's eyes dropped briefly to my mouth, then returned to mine. My breath caught. You okay? His voice had gone quieter. I nodded, even though my body had apparently forgotten how to act normal. Ethan slowly let go. Outside, we stopped beneath the awning while light rain tapped against the sidewalk. He shoved his hands into his jacket pockets. For the record, I tried asking you out once. I turned toward him. What? Last year. The taco place around the corner. My mind flashed to a rainy afternoon, Ethan standing near the elevators, asking whether I wanted to grab dinner. I had told him I was busy because I thought he was inviting the whole office. That was you asking me out. His smile was small and embarrassed. Not my strongest work. Why did you not make it clearer? Ethan looked at me for a long moment. I thought you made your answer pretty clear. Then he stepped into the rain and walked away, leaving me under the awning with one thought I could not talk myself out of anymore. I wished I had said yes. That night, I opened our messages and typed, "I wish I had said yes." Then I stared at the sentence until the words stopped looking real. My thumb hovered over send. One tap. That was all it would take. Instead, I deleted it and tossed my phone onto the couch like it had personally offended me. For the next few days, Ethan and I kept talking, but something had shifted. The jokes were still there. So were the late-night messages. But now every conversation felt like it was circling the same thing neither of us wanted to name. On Friday, he sent me a picture of the taco place near our building. Apparently, they survived your rejection. I smiled before I could stop myself. Barely. Want to help keep them in business? My chest tightened. This time, I understood what he was asking. Just us. There was a pause. That was the idea last time. I met him outside after work. Ethan had changed out of his office clothes and into a dark green sweater that made him look unfairly good for someone taking me to a place with plastic baskets and paper napkins. I noticed. I tried not to notice that I noticed. Dinner was easy. Too easy. We talked about bad clients, our first jobs, and the terrible apartment I had rented after college. Ethan remembered details from conversations I barely remembered having with him. At one point, he reached across the table and wiped a streak of hot sauce from the side of my hand with his thumb. The touch lasted less than a second. It still made me forget what I was saying. His eyes stayed on mine. Sorry. He pulled his hand back slowly. You had something there. Right. I looked down at my food. Normal emergency. Ethan laughed under his breath, but neither of us moved on right away. After dinner, rain started falling hard enough that we had to run back toward the office building. The lobby doors were locked for the night, and Ethan fumbled with his access card while I stood too close beneath the narrow awning. Our shoulders pressed together. Water dripped from his hair onto his forehead. You always bring rain to our dates, he murmured. This is not a date. The words came out automatically. Ethan went still. I hated myself almost immediately. He looked toward the street, jaw tightening just enough for me to notice. Right. I forgot. Ethan. It is fine. He finally got the door open, but I caught his wrist before he could step inside. The move surprised both of us. His skin was warm under my fingers. I should have let go. I did not. I keep saying that because I do not know what this is. Ethan turned back toward me. We were standing close enough that I could see the rain caught in his eyelashes. Do you want to know? My pulse jumped. I think so. That is not an answer. His voice was quiet, not angry. Somehow that made it harder. I loosened my grip, but Ethan turned his hand beneath mine until our palms almost met. For 1 second, his fingers started to close around mine. Then voices echoed from inside the lobby. 2 coworkers came around the corner, laughing as they headed toward the doors. Ethan stepped back. My hand dropped to my side. The moment disappeared so quickly, I almost wondered whether I had imagined it. One of the coworkers glanced between us. You guys coming from a date? Ethan looked at me. He did not smile. He waited. My throat went dry. I could have corrected them. I could have made another joke. Instead, I stood there in the rain-soaked silence, unable to say no. The question followed us into the lobby. You guys coming from a date? Trevor from accounting stood there grinning, umbrella dripping onto the tile. Beside him, Nina looked between Ethan and me with the kind of expression that meant she had already decided the answer. Ethan stayed quiet. He was still watching me, waiting to see what I would do. My chest tightened. We just got dinner, I managed. Trevor's grin widened. That is usually how dates work. Nina nudged him, but she was smiling too. Leave them alone. I am being supportive. Ethan gave a short laugh that did not reach his eyes. Good night, guys. Then he walked toward the elevators without waiting for me. I caught up just before the doors closed. The second we were alone, the silence changed. I could hear the rain against the glass behind us and the soft hum of the elevator cables. I did not say it was not a date. I offered. Ethan stared at the numbers above the door. You did not say it was one either. There were people standing there. That is usually where people stand. Mason. I winced. He immediately looked guilty, rubbing a hand over the back of his neck. Sorry. That was unfair. No, it was not. The elevator opened on his floor. Ethan stepped out, then paused with one hand against the door. I like you. The words were quiet, almost too calm. My heart slammed against my ribs. Ethan looked directly at me. I have liked you for a while. I thought matching with you meant maybe this time you were actually looking back. I could not find a sentence that felt big enough. Ethan, you do not have to answer tonight. The doors began to close. He let them. I stood there alone while the elevator carried me up another floor I did not need to be on. By Monday, apparently half the co-working space knew we had gone to dinner. Trevor stopped at my desk before 9 with 2 coffees and placed one beside my laptop. For your boyfriend. He is not my boyfriend. The answer came too quickly. Trevor raised both hands. Okay. Your architect who buys you lunch and looks at you like you are the only person in the room. My face warmed. He does not look at me like that. Trevor glanced past me. You sure? Ethan was standing near the kitchen, talking to Nina. His eyes met mine across the room. They stayed there for 1 second. 2. Then Nina followed his gaze and smiled. Ethan looked away first. Something about that hurt more than it should have. At lunch, he did not message me. He did not stop by my desk. He did not leave coffee beside my keyboard. I told myself he was busy. By 3, I had checked the dating app 6 times. His profile was still there, but the green active dot was gone. Around 5, I found him packing architectural models into a cardboard case. You are avoiding me. Ethan kept folding the flaps. I am giving you space. I did not ask for space. His hand stopped. You also did not answer me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice as 2 people passed in the hallway. Everyone is watching. That is the problem? No, then what is? I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Ethan's expression softened, but it made him look more tired than angry. You are comfortable with me when nobody else can see it. My stomach dropped. That is not true. Then tell me what this is. The hallway suddenly felt too narrow, too bright. I wanted to reach for him, but Trevor's voice carried from the kitchen, and my hand stayed at my side. Ethan noticed. Of course he did. He picked up the case and stepped around me. That is what I thought. Later that night, my phone lit up with a notification from the app. Ethan Brooks had hidden his profile. And for the first time, I understood exactly what it felt like to be the one left unnoticed. The next morning, Ethan's chair by the coffee shop window was empty. I noticed before I ordered. That was the part one could not explain away anymore. I noticed the missing blueprint tube, the untouched table, the fact that Lena only placed 1 cup on the counter. He came in early, she told me, following my eyes. Did not stay? I was not looking for him. She gave me a flat look. Sure. I carried my coffee upstairs and spent the next 3 hours pretending to work. Around noon, Trevor dropped into the chair beside my desk. You look terrible. Thank you. Did you mess things up with architect guy? I turned slowly. Do you ever do your job? Not when this is more interesting. I looked toward the kitchen. Ethan was there, standing beside Nina with his sleeves rolled up, listening while she talked. He laughed at something. A normal laugh. Easy. Like nothing had happened. My chest tightened anyway. Trevor followed my gaze. You know, for someone who is not your boyfriend, you are doing a lot of staring. I am not staring. Ethan looked up at that exact moment. Our eyes met. His smile disappeared. Not completely. Just enough. Then Nina touched his arm and pointed at something on her tablet. I looked away first. By 4, I had convinced myself Ethan was done trying. By 5, I hated how much that bothered me. I found him in one of the empty conference rooms, packing sample boards into a black case. The glass door clicked shut behind me. Ethan glanced over. Need the room? No, he went back to his work. Then what do you need? I had rehearsed an answer at my desk. It vanished the second he looked at me. Why did you hide your profile? His hand stopped. For a moment, neither of us moved. That is what you came here to ask. I noticed. I know. His voice softened. You notice everything now. I stepped closer to the table. Did you hide it because of me? Ethan let out a quiet breath and leaned back against the edge. I hid it because I was tired of checking whether you were online. My heart stumbled. He looked down at his hands, almost embarrassed. I kept wondering if you were talking to someone else. Then I got annoyed at myself because I had no right to care. You care? Ethan gave me a look. Mason, I told you I like you. I know. You thought I was calm about it. A short laugh escaped him, but there was no humor in it. I have spent 2 years pretending it did not bother me when you walked past. Then you matched with me. and suddenly you were looking at me like maybe I had imagined none of it. He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the case. I do not want to go back to normal. The room went quiet. My pulse was loud in my ears. Neither do I. Ethan's eyes lifted to mine. Then why do you keep acting like this only exists when we are alone? I moved closer before I could lose my nerve. Because I am scared I will get this wrong. You already are. The words were gentle. That hurt more. I reached for the sample board beside him at the same time he did. Our hands met. This time, Ethan did not pull away. His fingers turned beneath mine, slowly, until our palms pressed together against the table. This feels real to me, he said. That is the problem. I looked at our hands, then back at him. It feels real to me too. Ethan's breath caught. For 1 second, all the distance between us seemed to disappear. Then someone rattled the conference room handle from outside. We stepped apart too quickly. A coworker opened the door, apologized, and left. Ethan stared at me across the table, his expression unsteady now. Tomorrow night, he murmured. Dinner. No app. No coworkers. No pretending. My chest tightened. A date. His eyes held mine. Only if you are finally ready to call it one. By 6 the next evening, I had changed shirts 3 times and considered canceling twice. That should have told me everything. Instead, I blamed the weather, work, and the fact that Ethan had chosen a restaurant with actual reservations instead of paper baskets. When I arrived, he was already outside, hands in his coat pockets, watching people pass. The second he saw me, his expression softened. You came. I tried to smile. You sound surprised. I was prepared for a scheduling conflict. The joke landed too close to the truth. Ethan opened the door for me, but he did not touch my back as I passed. I noticed that too. Dinner started well. No coworkers. No app notifications. Just Ethan telling me about a client who wanted a staircase that looked like it was floating, and me laughing harder than the story deserved because I was nervous. Then his phone lit up beside his plate. A message preview appeared from Noah. Great seeing you today. Let me know about Saturday. I looked away quickly, but not quickly enough. Ethan turned the phone face down. Everything okay? Fine. Mason. Who is Noah? The question came out sharper than I intended. Ethan blinked, then leaned back slightly. My cousin. Your cousin? He moved here last week. I was helping him look at apartments. Relief hit first. Embarrassment followed right behind it. Right? Of course. Ethan studied me for a moment. Then a small smile pulled at his mouth. Were you jealous? No. That answer was very convincing. I reached for my water. I was curious. You looked like you wanted to fight my phone. I laughed, but Ethan did not. His fingers rested near mine on the table, close without touching. I would not mind if you were jealous, he admitted. That would at least mean you want this. My chest tightened. I do want this. Until someone sees us. The words were quiet. The restaurant noise seemed to fade around them. That is not fair. Ethan's eyes dropped to the table. Maybe not. But I keep wondering when you are going to decide this is too complicated. Why would I? Because you spent 2 years not noticing me, and now everything is moving fast. He looked back up. Maybe you like the surprise. Maybe once it stops feeling new, you will regret it. I had been so focused on my own fear that I had not considered his. Ethan was not calm. He was waiting for me to disappear. I reached across the table, then stopped before touching his hand. The hesitation lasted less than a second. It was still enough. Ethan pulled his hand back to make room for the waiter placing our check between us. The moment closed. Outside, the air had turned cold. We stood near the curb while cars moved through the wet street. Ethan kept a careful distance. I had a good time, he murmured. It sounded like an ending. Ethan, wait. He turned. I stepped closer. I am not regretting this. You do not know that yet. Neither do you. His jaw tightened. I know I do not want to be someone you only choose when it is easy. I looked at him, trying to find the right words. What if I am still learning how to choose you when it is not? Ethan went quiet. For a second, I thought he might reach for me. Instead, he glanced toward the restaurant window, where a couple from our co-working space had just spotted us. Their faces lit up with recognition. Ethan immediately stepped back. I felt the distance like a door shutting. See you Monday, he whispered. Then he walked away before they reached us, leaving me with the sudden, awful thought that maybe he was the one who regretted being seen with me. Monday morning, Ethan acted normal. That was worse than if he had avoided me. He nodded when I walked past the kitchen, asked Nina about a floor plan, laughed at something Trevor said. Not once did he look toward my desk. By noon, I was done pretending that did not bother me. I found him in the copy room, standing beside the printer with a stack of drawings under one arm. The door clicked shut behind me. Ethan glanced over. Need something? Yes. My voice came out tighter than I wanted. I need you to stop doing that. His eyebrows pulled together. Doing what? Acting like Friday did not happen. The printer hummed between us. Ethan set the drawings on the counter. You thought I regretted being seen with you. It was not a question. I folded my arms, mostly to keep my hands still. You stepped away. Because you looked terrified. I looked terrified because you stepped away. He stared at me. Then he let out one short breath and looked toward the ceiling. This is ridiculous. Finally, something we agree on. His mouth almost moved into a smile. It disappeared just as fast. I was trying to protect you. From what? From having two coworkers walk over and start asking questions when you were already panicking. I was not panicking about them. Ethan went quiet. Then what were you panicking about? I moved closer. Not much. Enough that the printer no longer felt like the only thing filling the room. You. His eyes locked on mine. I swallowed. I was scared you had changed your mind. Mason. His voice softened. I left because I thought you had. I showed up to dinner and spent half of it waiting for an excuse to call it something else. That hit. I looked down at his hands resting against the counter. I know. Do you? Yes. The word came out sharper than I meant. I forced myself to slow down. I know I keep making you guess. I know I keep acting like naming this will ruin it. Ethan did not move. Will it? Maybe. I looked back at him. But pretending it is nothing is already ruining it. The room went still. Ethan's fingers curled against the edge of the counter. What do you want from me? The truth. You first. My chest tightened. There it was. No joke. No easy way around it. I like you. Ethan's expression changed, just slightly. You already know that. No. You know I am interested. You know I am confused. That is not the same thing. I stepped closer again. I like you. I look for you when I walk into the coffee shop. I notice when you do not message me. I hated seeing Noah touch your arm, even when I thought he was someone else. Ethan's breathing slowed. His eyes stayed on mine. And I am scared because you noticed me for 2 years before I noticed you. That does not make your feelings less real. I know. I held out my hand between us. It felt strangely vulnerable. I am trying to prove that. Ethan looked at it for a long second. Then he placed his hand in mine. His fingers closed carefully, like he was still giving me time to pull away. I did not. I did not want to leave Friday, he murmured. I wanted you to stop me. My thumb moved across his knuckles. I am stopping you now. His eyes dropped to our hands, then lifted again. People might see. I tightened my grip. Let them. The copy room door opened behind me. Trevor froze in the doorway, took one look at our joined hands, and slowly backed out. I saw nothing. Ethan laughed. A real laugh this time. He did not let go. Neither did I. The first thing Ethan did after Trevor disappeared was laugh into his shoulder. Not loudly, just enough that I felt it through our joined hands. That could have gone worse, he murmured. He is going to tell everyone. He already thought we were dating. Now he has evidence. Ethan looked down at our hands, then back at me. You still okay with that? The old answer rose automatically. A joke. A dodge. Something safe. I let it pass. Yes. His expression softened. Not dramatically, just enough to make my chest feel warm. We walked out of the copy room, still holding hands. Trevor was at the kitchen counter pretending to study the coffee machine. Nina looked up from her laptop, noticed us, and smiled without saying anything. For once, nobody made it bigger than it was. Ethan and I crossed the room together, and I did not let go. That night, I deleted the dating app. Not because it had failed. It had done exactly what it was supposed to do. It had put Ethan in front of me long enough that I could not look past him again. A week later, we went back to the taco place. Ethan arrived first and saved the seat across from him. I stood there for a second, looking at the empty chair. Then I picked it up, moved it around the table, and sat beside him instead. He glanced over. That is new. I am trying something. Should I be worried? Probably. His knee touched mine under the table. Neither of us moved. After dinner, we walked back through the cold, our shoulders brushing every few steps. At the corner near the coffee shop, Ethan slowed down. You know, I almost deleted the app before we matched. Why? He shoved one hand into his coat pocket. The other stayed close to mine. I was tired of looking for someone who made conversation feel easy. And then you found me. No, he smiled. Then you finally found me. I rolled my eyes, but I reached for his hand. His fingers closed around mine immediately. Sunday mornings became ours after that. Same coffee shop, same window, same barista who stopped pretending she had not known all along. Ethan still remembered my order. I started remembering his. Black coffee, 1 sugar, even though he claimed he did not need it. Sometimes we worked in silence. Sometimes we argued about movies. Sometimes he looked at me across the table with that quiet half smile, and I still wondered how I had missed him for so long. One morning, I caught him watching me. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. You were staring." "I have been staring for 2 years." I felt my face warm. "That is still a little creepy. You like it?" I looked down at our hands resting beside the coffee cups. His thumb moved once across my knuckles. Small. Familiar. Real. "Yeah," I admitted. "I do." The app called him my perfect match. But that was never the important part. The important part was that after 2 years of walking past him, I finally stopped. I looked. And this time, I chose to stay.